Well, good afternoon, or morning, or evening, wherever you wherever you are. It just yeah. This is the channel known as Brother Mark Turner Syndrome: Butterflies in Life. Also, it's also a couple things about myself. I like to advocate and have a understanding and a supportive friendship with those who have Turner syndrome. It's a rare chromosomal disorder. Very familiar with and where I really have a lot of empathy and understanding is sometimes the social anxiety, the learning disabilities, and those areas where I can really relate. Another group that watches us is those who have been victims of narcissistic abuse. And narcissistic abuse is a type of bullying where the leaders will control, where the bullies will try to control the show and try to control the picture, and oftentimes they'll use accomplices to keep up that bullying, what they're known as flying monkeys. And and so then if you confront a narcissist, then oh boy. But the other thing too that that I wanted to do is want to share some experience, strength, and hope. Oftentimes in the narcissistic communities, it's that there's no hope for narcissists. They're stuck with it. Get out of Dodge. Get away from, and as well as you should. I mean, if somebody's going to be is going to be deceitful and bullying and abusive and argumentative. No, you deserve to be, and we all deserve to be around healthy and safe and people where we can have a transparent relationship, where we can agree to disagree. Those are part of being having healthy relationships. Sometimes easier said than done, but that's so obviously if you're a victim of no, the general sage wisdom is have nothing to do with them. Detach and find healthy people and find healthy communities. But I want to tell you about my narcissistic abuse as a recovering narcissist, because recovery is possible. I mean, this is just one person's story, and I just want to share my story and some of the things that I did. And the reason I do that is that maybe if to kind of use an analogy, up until about the 1930s, to be an alcoholic was a death sentence. There was just no way out. There was no way out of it, and it was a permanent death sentence. And then, as it turned out through the Oxford groups, one of the members went to an alcoholic and shared his experience, strength, and hope. It was a man by the name of Bill Wilson, and then he in turn went ahead and discovered that he could work with other alcoholics. So maybe recovering narcissists can work with other narcissists who are suddenly realizing maybe the game I'm playing, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. So I want to share my story, and I'm going to pretend that I am in a group called Narcissist Anonymous. This is based on the model pioneered by Alcoholics Anonymous, and that we admit that we're powerless over our narcissism, and that our lives become unmanageable, that we come to believe in the power greater ourselves, that we are in recovery, try to look at the things that affect us and how our behaviors affect us, and try to make things right. So that said, I'm going to tell my story of how I was abusive, and then maybe that some other people, and maybe that will help somebody else who's struggling with it, and say, yeah, that sounds like me. Maybe I need to do something about it. So maybe it's one narcissist helping and one recovering narcissist helping another. So here goes. My name's Mark, and I'm a gratefully recovering narcissist. And again, narcissistic abuse. You know, we can go ahead and look it up ourselves or Google. There's plenty of YouTube channels, but I just want to tell my story. I definitely grew up in a dysfunctional household. Uh, there were definitely lots of secrets. There were, and it's funny is there was my family had a public life, a private life, and then a secret life, and those secret lives really instilled a lot of fear. And so I know that I probably, I have to take responsibility, but did my upbringing contribute to it? I think an argument could be made. But there was definitely my case. I was typecast as a dumb little brother. If you remember Linus Van Pelt and how he was always abused by his sister Lucy and Peanut, and that was kind of me too. And then there were lots of family secrets, and because of all the abuse, and also I grew up with learning disabilities before we knew what learning disabilities were. So there was a lot of abuse and a lot of secrecy and a lot of stuff, a lot of bullying that was dumped on me. And I probably think that a lot of my narcissism was the abused becoming the abuser because I didn't know how to properly handle it. My parents hated counselors, hated professionals, hated to 12-step group to the dying days, and I never understood why, and I think that's just a wild way to live life. But what can I say? But a lot of my character defects is obviously I had to make a false image of myself, and I engaged in a lot of fantasy and a lot of pretending things that I wasn't, growing up. I also developed resentment of people who were successful, and also people that rejected me. So I took it as a personal affront. You have to forgive me; it's allergies. So I could see that a lot of my narcissism was not able to handle rejection, and then they had to have control. I also did a lot of bullying. Mine was, I couldn't be physically abused if I wanted to. I'm not gonna happen. I'll take that back. But it's definitely the abused becoming the abuser. And it was like that all growing up. And then there was, and it was a real hard act to follow. Pardon me for a minute, as we're down the street from the firehouse. So okay, good, they're out of the way. But I want to key in on one part of my life where the narcissistic abuse was really most powerful. And I had a situation in college where a girl, just with all her with lots of problems with herself, rejected me, and I took it as an attack on my own character and my own self-worth. And I developed a lot of resentment and anger, and I was really off the rails with some of the things. You probably have some, we'll just call the girl Mindy Goldberg, and I was just jealous and resentful. But the strange thing is, I see how I played the narcissistic game of how trying to abuse her, but it wouldn't be up front, and I'd be really secretive about it, and some of the things I said about it were just ruthless and rude, crude, and lewd, and I'm not proud of it, but I did it, and I was just mean and sarcastic and was plotting stories and rumors and just told all sorts of ugly stories about Mindy. And then I kept that game going up when I transferred from a New England school to a state university out Midwest. So I was like, 1,200 miles away, halfway across the country. And so I kept up the attack, and I pulled other people into the narcissistic game, attacking Mindy behind her back. And some of the stories, I told, if I were in social media, quite frankly, I'd be looking at a defamation lawsuit. I could be looking maybe at stalking. Who knows? Thankfully, we didn't have the internet back in the 1970s. But the exchange program that I was in out in the Midwest had fallen flat, so I decided to move back to the city where I first went to school. Well, that really wasn't a very good move on my part, because then also now I'm running into Mindy again, and but this time something different happened. I suddenly started looking at the drama that I was causing, and the grief that I was causing. And the one thing that kind of really stopped me was I couldn't play the game. I just couldn't keep up the facade anymore. And I just realized my heart and hearts that I was being mean to her. I think the one thing that really woke me up is I was kind of looking, not, the best way I can describe it is I was looking at a psychotic breakdown. I mean, I was like that far away from it. And it's like I was staring down the barrel of a gun, and the other end of the gun was going to be a psychotic break. And that scared me, and I just said, and I didn't know what the right next thing to do, but I went to Mindy, and I came clean. I told her what I did, and I asked for forgiveness, and I apologized, and she said, apology accepted. And that was the end. Was I cured of narcissistic abuse? No, hardly. But I think that was a sufficient wake-up call. I was in groups where the narcissistic abuse was kind of encouraged. Sometimes in spiritually abusive groups, narcissistic abuse can occur in cult-like religious organizations, and it can be, there's sort of a Machiavellian ethic that kind of enables the behavior. And when I realized what I was doing, that actually got me out one of the movement, and it also eventually got me onto a road of recovery. Eventually, I got into various 12-step groups. Also, been involved in spiritual abuse recovery movements, and those who have been in abusive religious groups have had a lot of recovery there. How did I get over it? I don't have any easy, magical answers that said, hey, this is, that there was a defining moment. I think what worked for me is I did what's called, in 12-step work, I did a 4-step inventory where I'm looking at resentments, where I'm looking at fears. And as I was working a program, just gradually I realized that behavior is just not appropriate, and just stopped doing it. Obviously, I learned that I had resentments, and had fears. So when I put those on paper, for me they kind of lost their power. As it turned out, Mindy and I actually did touch bases decades later on Facebook. We talked, and I made amends. I think she made some amends too, and we kind of cleared the air. So it was really healthy and really healing. There's no cure for it, but I know for me that I have to be careful about control issues. And I have to make sure, am I being sensitive with the other person's needs? It's really true in my marriage. I mean, my wife sometimes has trouble standing up for herself, and I could be controlling, demanding, and I have to recognize her boundaries. And today I have to be accommodating and say, here's a good one, like going to church. I really wanted to go to church on Sunday. I feel it's important, but I can't force her. That's a control issue. That would be abusive, and it really took a long time for me to kind of wake up to what was what's going on. But today I have to say, she may not be feeling well. Her heart may not be in it, and I may not be okay. I may not be crazy about it, but I have to let go of the control and just I'll say okay. Or if she's been tomorrow, I don't anticipate her wanting to go to church. She's been working massive amounts of overtime on a temporary job. She's going to be dead to the world. So I pretty much anticipated that I'll be driving to church alone tomorrow. She'll be sleeping in. It'd be nice if she catch the online service, but if it doesn't, today I know it's not the end of the world. I think another thing too that I also do is I've learned, and this helps me out too, with the control issues, is that I forgot where I was going. Oh yes, here. I think I've learned I'm going to get, it's not scientific, but it's a good model. I get a third of things my way, the other third I don't, and the other third I'm going to have to compromise on. So in the issue church tomorrow, I know my wife's not going to want to go. She's worked umpteen million hours this week. She's going to be dead to the world. So I know. So tomorrow I'm going to say, well, I may not be happy, but that's okay. But today I'm to the point where I can be not controlling anymore. I can be bummed out about it. That's okay. Not reasonable. I can kind of be sad. It'd be nice if she went, but at least I'm respecting her, respecting her boundaries. And by the time I get on the road in about 5 minutes, the issue would be over. Many narcissists. Can narcissists recover? It's not easy. I think it definitely requires accountability. It definitely requires transparencies in a safe recovery community. I'm in safe, confidential communities where I can, that if I'm starting to act inappropriately, I can call somebody and say, I think I'm starting to slip. I don't think I'm acting appropriately. Before I go there, I just want to kind of name it, claim it, and dump it. So for me, being transparent in safe communities is helpful. Picking up the phone is calling somebody or texting somebody has been really helpful for me. The other thing to do today I do too is I carry the message. I've been blessed to be around other people who have had similar stories, similar to mine, who have been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse, which clearly I have been. I mean, and it's been quite healing to hear. One, I'm not the only one. Now I know what it is, and today I can advocate for Turner syndrome, and I can have the friendships that I have, but then I can also educate the Turner syndrome community on what narcissistic abuse is, and then how it's how it's affecting others. So that in itself is quite healing. So anyway, that's my story. If you've been a victim of narcissistic abuse, counseling is really great. Or if you can't afford it, or there's nothing close by, I found a lot of the Facebook groups on narcissistic abuse have been just really helpful. I'm hearing their studies, and then there's been just some really wonderful YouTube videos that have been message and help somebody else. If you feel that you have been abusive and you want to do something about it, my best advice, and we would say to any alcoholic who realizes that he or she's got a drink problem, then he or she is whipped. The best thing to do is, if you're a narcissist and you know it, and you know what you're doing to yourself and others, don't beat yourself up, but find a safe place that you can come clean. The Christian Celebrate Recovery is a great place for it. Codependence Anonymous is helpful. Adult Children of Alcoholics comes to mind. And I'm sure with social media, there are tons of opportunities that you can find in a few minutes that are just, keyboards and mouse taps away. So if that's you and you want to come clean, hey, that's being brave, and that's doing the next right thing. It's a long road of recovery, but I also can say that it's been rewarding. Okay, so that's my story. Take what you like, leave the rest, and thanks for listening.